it's Yamina. I hope everyone is doing well. In today's video, I wanted to give my updated views on colorism, and so I'm gonna first start off with some comments that I read so back in back in late 2022, early 2023, there was a conversation going on YouTube that started with Monaleo, who is a female rapper, and with Mehgan James, who's a personality. She has a YouTube channel, a podcast, I believe, and she, I believe, identifies as a black woman. Monaleo identifies as black woman. She's dark skin. Mehgan James is light skin, and they had a conversation. I actually watched the full interview that the conversation happened in, and the conversation itself was less than like 10 minutes long, and it was talking about colorism in the music industry. Monaleo said that she did see it, she experienced it being a rapper in the industry. Mehgan James was like, how, like what? And she was like, because I know that I experienced being bullied and teased for having long hair, and for people thinking that I wasn't black and asking me where my parents were from, something like that, to that effect. So they didn't get into like what Monaleo was experiencing, and what Mehgan James was experiencing to me wasn't colorism, and it was definitely annoying for her, but it wasn't colorism in my opinion. But four YouTubers, one, two, three, four, one. I'm trying to remember which ones exactly. So that one, and I'm not gonna name names except for the ones that I'm cool with. Like not cool with, the ones that I feel comfortable saying their names. But one person I had to unsubscribe from her channel because her commentary, like she was trying to do a live stream about like reverse colorism versus colorism. She herself doesn't believe in reverse colorism, and she only believes in colorism, being that it's discrimination within the same group of people against darker skinned people of that group. And traditionally, like any group of color, black community, Asian communities, multiple Asian communities, Spanish speaking communities that have different ranges of skin tones. So she only believed in colorism being against dark skinned people, and so she was trying to bait people into having an argument basically with her, not even a discussion. She basically just wanted to argue, because I had been subscribed to her channel for a little bit, and a little bit probably being a little over 6 months, maybe longer, and I had listened into some of her lives and saw how she like baited people because she basically wanted to argue. And I was just like, I followed her because we had something in common that I'm not going to share, but I was like, I can't deal with this, because when it came to the colorism discussion, she basically was bullying and harassing a woman who identified as light skinned, who did believe in reverse colorism, and was trying to stand up for it, but the woman would not let her get a word in edgewise and express to her like why she was saying that. And she did want an argument, and she didn't want to listen to the entire thing. Another thing that I noticed from her too, she was kind of like impatient with people. Thank goodness I grew up in New York City. I have heard a lot of the Caribbean accents, and even if I can't identify which country someone is from, I at least know it's an accent that really exists and somebody's not teasing someone. So she had a few callers call in at previous times during lives that she actually thought people were trolling her. She didn't realize that it was someone with a Caribbean accent speaking to her, and it was tell her which country she was from, and she didn't understand that. And I was just like, you're African American in the USA, and yes, you may not live around the Caribbean community, but how do you not recognize when the accent is real versus somebody just pranking you? So I was kind of annoyed with that. So I ended up unsubscribing from her channel, because the last straw for me was when she was basically like bullying this woman for believing in reverse colorism. And at the time that the situation was going on and these four YouTubers were discussing Monaleo's and Mehgan James's conversation, I did not believe in reverse colorism. I thought colorism just went one way, and I was just like, that's all there is. But as got into the comments, I was just like, you know what, like somebody has a point. So I'm gonna read some of the comments, and then I'm gonna read to you the original person who coined the term colorism, or it's coined the word colorism. But under some of these comments, so one person, I'm not going to read the names of any of the people who made these comments, but I did screenshots of them. So one person says racism is about oppression and colorism is about discrimination. You have to have power to oppress people. You don't have to have power to discriminate against people. Therefore, reverse colorism does exist and is practiced very often by dark-skinned people. And then another person, she said, so to women like, wait, let me start again. Second comment is, so to women like Megan, would y'all want to be darker skinned and or without good hair? Would you prefer to trade places with a darker skinned black woman? So I actually answered this woman, and I think I deleted my comment later on. But I answered her because there was a time in my life when I was a child. I actually did want to be darker skinned because I was getting teased by relatives, mostly by occasionally kids in school, but mostly by relatives, few relatives, about being the lightest person in my family. And I just wanted to fit in with my family. The fact is, though, my family is like all shades of brown and dark skin and light skin, and like my family's big. Like, we have people in my family who are more mixed, people who are biracial, people who are dark skin, who might be biracial but don't know it and don't claim it as well. But yeah, my family is pretty broad, and like, yeah, we have, yeah, so we'll say that. But around my siblings, I was the lightest person, and then I had cousins who were biracial. They were Jewish and African. They are Jewish and African American, and they were also light skinned, and they were lighter than I was. So I would get teased a lot. My cousins lived with us for a while. I don't remember them getting teased. And around that time, I did want to be darker skinned. I had actually prayed to God like a few times about like changing my skin color. My hair is naturally Afro kinky coily curly, and it's a fine texture. It's not very thick and coarse. Like, it's not super heavy. But my hair can look big, but it also can look very compact like it is now. But to me, like back then, good hair, and I'm gonna do probably one more video about hair, but to me, good hair was hair that was like easy to take care of. And so, answering that woman's question, I said yes, I would trade places, but I don't have to. Like, I love who I am. I don't want to change who I am. And back when I was a kid, I did. And I would have been fine if God had changed me overnight. But I'm not going to be tanning to make myself look different than how I was naturally born. And I don't care if people tan. And I don't care if people, like, I don't care if people tan to get the skin tone they want. I don't care if people, no, I can't say I don't care. I don't care if people tan. That's the thing I don't care about, and that's why. But I personally do not tan. Like, that's not my thing. But I do care if people bleach, and there's been like a few discussions online in the exotical land community that's been interested in hair from people who bleach their skin to get lighter skin tones so that they can fit in and meet their ideal goals and how they want to look. I've actually looked at some videos of a lady who's actually regularly bleaching. I personally, it actually makes me personally like very sad. So I'm not gonna talk about that. Um, oof, yeah, that makes me sad. But tanning is like so socially acceptable, and also like a lot of people frown down upon it, especially in communities that do deal with colorism a little more. But tanning does not have as deep of a impact on people's brains as like bleaching does for some people. So yeah, I answered that lady's question, and then I think I deleted it because yes, I did want to be darker skin, like dark skin at one point, but like I don't care about that now. I think people should love the skin that they're in and enjoy what they have and enhance what they have in the most natural way that you can without like doing harm to yourself. But anyway, okay, let's see. Next comment I'm gonna read. Y'all are delusional if you still think colorism can be reversed after hearing the definition of colorism. Someone responded to her, you're in denial if you believe dark skin don't have misplaced anger towards those who they believe have an advantage over them. And yeah, I agree with that. Next comment is, I'm gonna make sure this is the same thing. Okay. Next comment, this is the sixth comment. Critical thinking is needed. Yes, I said bullying because that's an act of discrimination, racism, and colorism. Do you not realize if you experience colorism or racism, it's a form of bullying? Exactly. They have different words to define the situation. You missed the point. If someone treats a black person bad, they are bullying them. If they are of a different race and don't treat their race as such, it's racism. Let's see, if someone treats a black person bad, they are bullying them. If they are a different race and don't treat their race as such, it's racism. Bullying is the act of racism and colorism, right? So if someone is not as dark as you, it's not colorism. My brother is darker than my sister, so my sister can't experience colorism. My sister is darker than me, but my cousin is lighter than me, so which can't experience colorism? You guys are getting caught up on the terminology and not the act. And exactly, like, that's the whole point. So these are comments. I'm trying not to, okay. Okay, so another comment is, I'm sorry, but someone that says light skin telling you that they face colorism. Wait, I'm sorry, but someone. Hold on. I'm sorry, but someone that's light skinned telling you that they face colorism and a dark skinned person telling them that they don't face colorism is colorism. Oh my god, this generation. Exactly. Okay. Another comment. I'm going to try to save the longest one for the last. Another person said, bruh, they do not care about our experiences. We should just shut up and appreciate and be grateful for being light skinned. And I didn't catch the rest of that comment, unfortunately, and I couldn't find it. And I think this is the same comment. Okay. I'm trying to keep up with what's I haven't read and what I did read. Okay, so next one. This is only a partial comment because unfortunately I didn't get the whole thing again. For real, someone actually said that our situations are just uncomfortable while theirs are serious. I have been through so much over the years that I at one time started doing things to disappear. I'm outgoing and enthusiastic, and that was the end of the comment because I didn't catch the rest of it. And another comment is, however, light-skinned people don't cause colorism and we get treated like we're the cause. It's true we get bullied by darker-skinned black people. And then the longest comment from these. So these were a few of the comments that I was researching for this whole time, like, because I had to change my mind about what I thought about colorism versus reverse colorism, and I had to change my mind on how I viewed it because I don't see it where I live because there's not a black community, and I don't know how it was in New York City, and I'll express that in another video probably. But definitely, like, listening to conversations online, listening to people talk about celebrities online, speaking about, like, their perceived benefits, no, their perceived privileges, when it comes to colorism. I was just like, wow, this is very one-sided. So anyway, so the longest comment for this person said to one of the YouTubers, I didn't really want to type this, but as I had explained to my dark skinned bestie at the time who would make light skinned jokes towards me, I am aware that dark skinned women and men, especially women, have been dragged and ridiculed throughout history for their skin tone, and it's really disgusting how people in our community keep this issue dragging on how we look and treat each other. However, due to my experience growing up and what I've witnessed, dark skinned women have looked at me and assumed as though I'm better than them just because I'm of lighter complexion. I'm just going to say this, I'm aware of light skin privilege, but we have to all look at it from all perspectives. How are you, a dark skinned woman, screaming about colorism but laugh at posts making fun of light skinned women, men, assuming that woman or man thinks they're better than you, make fun of a biracial light skinned woman or man and ask if they're white? It's hypocritical and low key insecurities built from generations of. Gotta make sure. Built from generations of trauma. Every time I see posts shaming dark skinned women, I get on them and call them out. But whenever it's reversed, I see nothing but dark skinned women and men laughing and making sly jokes in the comments. May not be reverse colorism, but on both sides, we sure keep dragging this division amongst ourselves. So that comment was epic. Like, I was like, I think that was a comment that made me realize, like, yes, this does exist, and thankfully, I don't see it. I love people. I love people that respect my personal space more. I had an incident today that had nothing to do with any of this, and I was just like, oh my goodness, people. Anyway, I love to say hi to black people in town because there's not a lot of us, and I usually just greet them and say hi, how you doing? If I have time, I'll ask them where they're from. And I saw a lady today, so that was nice, but I think she didn't recognize me because I was wearing a really big hat. But yeah, so I saw her. I made sure I ended up seeing her twice, and I said hi both times. But I like to greet women who look like me, whether they're biracial, mixed, black, African American, Jamaican, Caribbean, African. Like, I'm gonna greet them, especially if I recognize that we are of similar ancestry of some kind. Like, I will always recognize someone. So all of those comments as a whole, like, made me look at colorism differently. And then in January of 2024, this year, I found Exoticals United, and I saved a whole, I think it was December or January this year, but December of last year, I was like still doing all my research on colorism and how I felt about it and like how I viewed it. And because I knew I needed to do an updated video on it because my last video about colorism was not very informed, and it was very one-sided. And when I found her channel, I like saved a lot of her videos and started watching them back in January, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense, that makes sense, that makes sense. So a lady on Adakos United channel shared a comment in, let me make sure when I took this screenshot. Oh, I took this screenshot. Oh wait, never mind. I'm not gonna have an accurate date of when I took the screenshot because this is transferred from another. This is transferred from another device from where I took the screenshot. So never mind. I took it sometime in January or something. So a young lady in the Articles United comment section said, "The author Alice Walker coined the term colorism." I was just like, what? And her definition was basically acknowledging that colorism is a discrimination or privilege based on someone's skin tone. Doesn't say, anyway. So, based on someone's skin tone, in her definition, she never mentioned light skin or dark skin, and she never denied either one being excluded out of colorism. And I was like, I actually started crying when I read that comment. Like, I don't cry when I read comments on YouTube channels. And I actually cried when I read that because I was like, oh my goodness, people have been denying this all this time and it's actually true. which means by her definition, colorism does in fact go both ways. So light-skinned people do face colorism at the same rate dark-skinned people do, but a lot of dark-skinned people that don't think light-skinned people... Wait, let me make sure I'm caught up because I had to go to another screen. But a lot of dark-skinned people that don't think light-skins can experience colorism, and a lot of... Oh, and a lot of them don't even know who originated the term colorism and its actual true meaning. That they want to go, yet they want to go back and forth with us and haven't even researched the history of colorism for themselves. I was shook. I was crying. Like I said, I've never cried reading a comment section on YouTube in my life. Like I've cried watching YouTube movies. But yeah, I never cried because I was shook. I was like, yes, it does. And you can see it in families, you can see it in friends, you can see it with your schoolmates, you can see it with coworkers. And I was just like, there you go. So that's the first thing. That was like the last thing. And then I ended up looking it up for myself. I will make sure I pin this in my description box when I upload this video. And there's an article written by Kimberly Jade Norwood, and I will read just a little bit of it. Colorism, a term believed to be first coined in 1982 by Pulitzer Prize winner Alice Walker, was defined by her to mean the prejudicial or preferential treatment of same-race people based solely on their color. It is not racism, although there is a clear relationship. She goes on to say that colorism can also be extended beyond the race. Like people who are hiring black people could show preference for someone who's lighter than darker, maybe even vice versa, but they said lighter than darker. So that could be a form of colorism, even though in my previous video I felt like that was a form of racism, but colorism makes sense. It also goes on to say that it tends to affect and infect women more than men, but still both can experience colorism, and that it can be a lifetime thing. So I will make sure that this is saved so that people can read this article because I was shook. So my dictionary does not show the word colorism in it. It doesn't show colorist, except to say colorist is someone who deals with colors. The definition I found for colorism was originally online on Instagram, and I was just not on Instagram, sorry, on Google, Wikipedia, and it did not show Alice Walker's definition, and I was like, man. So when I did my previous video, I think it was like over 2 years ago, I was like not informed that it was a thing on both sides, because every time I kept listening to this conversation, I was like, you know what? If you're being discriminatory towards someone, or if you're trying to show that you dislike someone because of their skin tone, because of their gender, because of whatever, you don't even have to say anything sometimes. You could just look at them a certain way, and somebody's gonna know that you don't like them. Like, I've experienced racism like that, and I've definitely experienced what I understand now to have been colorism, possibly, based on just a look. And I feel like, based on that definition, based on what I've seen, people can express colorism towards someone, if it's not jealousy, towards someone of the same color, maybe even, and also against someone who's in your same race, in your same people. And so I was shook because I was just like, I did not know that was a thing. And it made things so much more understandable, because like the way I experienced colorism was mostly from family and less from acquaintances. And because even though I didn't have terminology for colorism until like after 2018, like I didn't know what colorism was, and I'm not in the black community to even like see it rampant or anything. Let me get back to what I was trying to say. So even though I'm not in the black community to see if it exists where I live, I definitely, like when I was a kid, didn't know what colorism was by name. I made it a point, because of how I got teased for being the lightest in the family, I made it a point to let my darker skinned friends know that they were beautiful, and like kind of went out of my way without doing too much. Like I would just verbally express like you're beautiful, like your skin color is beautiful. I hope you always know that. And these were people that I don't regret saying that to, and I don't do that now because like I don't feel like that is necessary for me to say to someone. Like the people, I told one of my YouTube buddies, Tandy, that I don't talk about like skin color. Like I know what color I am. I know I'm considered light skin. I know what brown skin is. I know what dark skin is, and that's just within like the black community. But like beyond the black community, there's a range of skin tones, like a whole bunch. And like I've always been aware of skin color because I'm not blind to it. I love people. I love the differences in people, and I love the similarities in people. So I'm always going to notice skin tones. So when I see someone who has even a remotely similar skin tone to me, maybe with facial features, that makes me recognize that they are someone of African descent as well. I'm just like, I can vibe with you. I can talk to you, and like that's how I made some of my friends. And then of course I have friends who don't look anything like me and never will. So I made it a point to make sure my friends knew that I loved them with their skin tone, because of their skin tone and not in spite of their skin tone. Like it's just weird that that's been around my whole life and I didn't recognize that's what it was. I've had people like, and I don't know if this was necessarily necessarily colorism or just like jealousy. I would like to think it wasn't, because these people were my friends. But I had a friend who was my age, and I had said to her like do you think I'm pretty? And like she was sleeping over at my house, and I was like, do you think I'm pretty? And we were both Jehovah's Witnesses. And she's like, you have like big eyes, and she didn't say I was pretty, like not a thing, like would not say it. And I was just like, okay. And I'm glad she didn't ask me about her, because yeah, anyway, she was cute. But anyway, and then I had an older friend who was like 40 years older than me, and she had said something about like I looked pretty one day, and I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know you think I was pretty. She's like, yeah, we can't have you getting a big head, and I was just like, really? So both of my friends, they were African American as well, and they were of darker complexions. And because we were both Jehovah's Witnesses, like, and I didn't know what colorism was at that time, that didn't even come into play in my head. I just thought it was weird that they acted like I had a big head, even though I never acted like I had a big head. Like I always considered myself to be, yeah, I can be argumentative, but when it comes to my looks, like that's me. Dressing up is like just how I present myself. I want to feel comfortable in my skin, and I like to feel pretty however I present myself. And if someone appreciates that, great. And if someone doesn't appreciate, that's fine as well. But like I try to look pretty for myself and not for someone else. So I am just comfortable in my own skin, and for someone to portray that as me like going around having a big head is weird to me, because I'm just like, have I ever treated you like I thought I was better than someone? No. Like, you know me. You know what I like to argue about, even though I shouldn't be arguing with people. You know what I like and you know what I don't like. So don't make this about like how I look, when how I look is not what we're talking about ever. So yeah. And like I said, there's not a large black community here, and those two friends, like both of them were from two different states, so they're not around anymore. But that, so with colorism, seeing how it's discussed online with the groups of people that discuss it, like when it's people talking about celebrities who are lighter than them, I'm just like, how do you know that's the factor that the music industry is taking into account? How do you know that that's the factors that like, why do you have to blame the person for being picked instead of blaming the people that picked them? Instead of, I don't get it. Like, I'm just like, people can't be light skinned, people can't be dark skinned without somebody like complaining about their skin tone and what benefits they get from it or what benefits they don't get from it. It's always blamed on skin color, and I'm just like, I think the problem is definitely internal. And personally, for me, like, being a Christian, being that like racism, colorism, all those things are like part of the world, and how people are influenced by the evil entity to like think about things. Um, it's not going to be a permanent thing in the world. Like, one day those things won't exist, and that's just from my beliefs. So it's not going to exist forever, and I just personally make it my duty to treat people how I want to be treated, but also treat people how I want to be treated, but also speak up if I'm uncomfortable about something. And I'm talking about my personal space now, because like, I had an incident today with a man, and I was just like, oh my goodness. Anyway, so I love all people. I love people who look like me. I love people who don't look like me. And the way the world is, unfortunately, like, we're just dealing with a lot of like bad attitudes and people doing bad things and people not caring about how other people feel. So I'm feeling more of that. But then when you go online, we're talking about like colorism, featureism, hair textures, all that kind of stuff. And I do find different conversations very interesting, but at the same time, I also realize it's just like divisive when it's put into like the wrong people's heads. Like, they can take it out into the world and treat people in a negative way because they're letting themselves get wrapped up into what they're being taught. But me, I excuse me, I will make it a point to not treat people any old weird way based on their skin tone, because I think all skin tones are beautiful. And like I said, I previously have wanted to be dark skinned, but I'm not. God did not give that to me. Doing a tan. Oh, I was gonna show you a picture if I could remember the picture. Back when I was a kid, I could tan really, really well. But the factor is, once I realized that I could tan that dark, I was like, wait a minute, I wasn't wearing sun protection. Isn't that dangerous to be able to tan that dark and not wear SPF? So here is a picture of me. Like, this is how I'm naturally supposed to look. That's me with my friend and my other friend. Anyway, that's me with my friend and my little self, and that's my normal skin tone. And then this is me with a tan. The lady next to me was a grown lady, and that was her natural skin tone. That's my skin tone playing out in the sun. I was a young teenager at that time, and I was shook when I saw this picture, because I was like, it's fine to tan, but protect yourself when you tan. Like, I was not protected. So by the time I was like in my late teens, I was using sunblock,